TCM, the Emergency Medicine Journal. Today we are discussing about antihypertensive drugs or drugs which can be used in high blood pressure. Normal BP, you all know that systolic BP is less than 120, diastolic BP is less than 80. 120/80 is considered as a normal BP. Elevated BP means systolic BP 120 to 129 or diastolic BP is normally less than 80. So that is elevated systemic hypertension or systolic hypertension. Stage 1 hypertension means systolic BP 130 to 139 or diastolic BP 80 to 89. Stage 2 hypertension is systolic BP at least 140 and diastolic BP at least 90. So these are the classifications. Now we have two important types of hypertension: primary or essential hypertension. 80 to 90% of the hypertensive patients come into this category. Cause is unknown. Secondary hypertension means some other disease which is producing high BP, that is secondary hypertension. Now you can see this chart. In that different classifications are given. This is by JNC. So classifications, according to classification, we have normal BP, elevated BP, stage 1 hypertension, stage 2 hypertension and hypertensive crisis. And if you see the secondary causes of hypertension, there are different causes. We are not going to discuss all these causes. The most common cause is renal disease, either renal parenchymal disease or renal vascular disease. Then endocrine causes like Cushing's, pheochromocytoma, Conn syndrome, adrenal hyperplasia, Liddle syndrome, so many thyrotoxicosis, so many diseases can produce secondary hypertension. Drugs like steroids, estrogens, anabolic steroids, NSAIDs, sympathomimetic, all can increase the BP. Aortic defects like coarctation of aorta, aorta arteritis can produce BP. Other conditions like obesity, metabolic syndrome, obstructive sleep apnea, pregnancy, preeclampsia, alcohol, all can produce secondary hypertension. Without any cause, you call it as primary hypertension. With a cause, you call it as secondary hypertension. When we have a patient who is having hypertension, we should take proper history from the patient, like duration of BP, previous drugs taken for the BP, whether it was controlled or not controlled, any side effect was there, family history of hypertension, family history of coronary artery disease, family history of stroke. Dietary and psychological history is very important, whether sleep is good, whether anxiety is there, whether patient is taking a lot of salty diet, all these things are important. Risk factors like weight change, recent weight change, cholesterol levels, smoking history, diabetes, physical inactivity, alcohol. And high sodium diet is very important in hypertension because there is an entity called as salt responsive hypertension. In that type of patients, where if the patient takes too much salt, BP can increase. But some patients, the salt is not responding, salt is not responsible for the hypertension. So even if they take a lot of salt, BP may not increase. But however, the history of salt intake is very important. And look for any secondary hypertensive changes, like patient can have end organ damage very early itself, easy fatigability, cardiac changes, palpitations, tremors, breathing difficulty, sleep disorders, all these things are important. And then evidence of target organ damage like TIA, angina, LV failure, sexual dysfunction, all these things. Other comorbidity history also should be taken. All diabetes, hypertension, chronic hypertension, dyslipidemia, coronary artery disease, cancer, all these things history should be taken in detail. Now when we get a case of hypertension, we have to examine the case thoroughly. Patient can have some symptoms suggestive of hypertension, some signs suggestive of hypertension. Most of the patients who is having chronic hypertension are asymptomatic. Some may complain easy fatigability, headache, palpitation. Palpitation is one of the most common features seen in hypertensive patients. Headache can be seen in some patients. Very high BP will produce headache. Now signs, if when we examine the patient for signs of chronic hypertension, that is very important. BP can be elevated, either systolic or diastolic, or both BP can be elevated. So we have to examine both upper limb, both lower limb to get a proper reading, and repeated readings are important. Not single reading will not tell you that patient is having hypertension. Heaving apical impulse due to left ventricular hypertrophy. There is one important finding you see in chronic hypertension. Loud A2. There is a classical finding seen in heart auscultation in systemic hypertension. Ejection systolic murmur can be heard in aortic area. So loud A2 with ejection systolic murmur can be heard in systemic hypertension. Optic fundus changes can be seen in chronic hypertension. Pedal edema is very common in patients who is having hypertension or patients who are on calcium channel blockers. Secondary hypertension changes like renal bruit should be examined for renal artery stenosis, radiofemoral delay. Postural hypertension is very important in secondary hypertension. All these things, signs also should be elicited. A routine lab investigation done in hypertension is very important. We have to ask for blood sugar, serum creatinine, serum sodium, serum potassium, calcium, fasting lipid profile, free T4 TSH, that is thyroid function test. Hemoglobin level should be done to rule out polycythemia. Serum uric acid can be elevated in some patients. Urine routine for proteinuria and RBCs in the urine are important. All patients who is having repeated elevated blood pressure should be taken for an ECG. ECG normally, if the patient is having only a white coat syndrome, like whenever he come to the hospital, if BP is high, ECG may not show any finding. But if the patient is having chronic uncontrolled hypertension, ECG may show LVH with strain pattern. Other investigation like investigation which are done in selected patients, only in patients who is having suspected secondary hypertension. Not in all patients we do this investigation, like X-ray, echo, renal Doppler, urine potassium, urine renin activity. Like that, some investigation will be done only to rule out secondary hypertension. They are not done routinely in patients who is having hypertension. If the patient is having early itself end organ damage, or patient is having uncontrolled hypertension, then only we go for this type of investigations. Whenever we have a patient with high BP, we will not start antihypertensive initially itself. We will give some time for lifestyle modification. These lifestyle modifications are very important to reduce the BP. So weight reduction and regular exercise. Exercise is walking for 30 minutes every day, most of the days in a week. That is very important. So 30 minutes continuous walk is required. And weight reduction is also very important. If dietary restrictions are required for weight reduction, that should be followed. Another important diet approach is DASH type of diet, dietary approach to stop hypertension. That is very important. So in that we normally use vegetables and fruits which contain high potassium. Potassium can reduce the BP in most of the patients, but patients who is having renal failure, this approach should not be done, because in patients who is having renal failure, if you take fresh fruits, potassium can go high and it will become a problem in that type of patients. Otherwise, DASH type of dietary plan is very useful in patients with high BP. Alcohol should be limited. Does not we cannot recommend to stop alcohol or start alcohol for BP control, but if the patient is taking, it should be limited. Smoking should be stopped. So these are the lifestyle modification we can do for next 3-4 months, and continuously during that period we have to check the BP. If the BP is coming down or reduced with this type of lifestyle modification, well and good, no need to start any antihypertensive for this patient. But if lifestyle modification does not improve the BP, or patient is not compliant with the lifestyle modification, we have to definitely go for antihypertensive therapy. Previous guidelines says that ABCD approach. ABCD approach means AC inhibitor, or ARB. B is beta blocker, C is calcium channel blocker, D is diuretic. Any of these drugs can be started as a first line drug. But current approach says that ACD approach, that beta blockers are removed from the first line drug. Multiple reasons for that, but there are definite indications for beta blockers. Otherwise, beta blockers should not be used as a first line drug. You can use AC inhibitor or ARB. Calcium channel blocker can be used, or diuretic. These are the three important drugs should be started for patients who is having systemic hypertension without any other comorbidities. If comorbidities are present, then we have to go for different types of drugs in other ABCD approach. We see the antihypertensive, they are thiazides, beta blockers, alpha blockers, AC inhibitors or ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers, calcium channel blockers, and calcium channel blocker itself, dihydropyridine and rate limiting drugs are there, so they can be used. Now, if we see the indication, thiazides can be used in isolated systolic hypertension, cardiac failure, elderly patients, secondary stroke prevention, beta blockers, patients with angina, myocardial infarction, heart failure, that is early heart failure, tachycardia. Alpha blockers can be used in BPH patients or prostatism patients or uncontrolled BP. As a second line drug we can start. AC inhibitors or ARBs can be used in left ventricular failure patients, post myocardial infarction, established CAD, diabetic nephropathy, proteinuria, secondary stroke prevention. Calcium channel blockers are very useful drugs like nifedipine, amlodipine. They are very useful in elderly individuals, isolated systolic hypertension. That entity, calcium channel blockers are the first line drugs. Calcium channel blockers like diltiazem can be used in patients with angina or elderly patients. So these are the drugs should be used as a first line drugs, but due to various reasons beta blockers are removed from the first line drugs. Alpha blockers are also not used in first line drugs. We can use either diuretic, AC inhibitor or ARB, or calcium channel blockers like amlodipine or nifedipine. Now we will see the diuretic. The most commonly used diuretic is hydrochlorothiazide. It can be given as a single drug or it can be used with ACE or ARBs. Another important drug is indapamide, that is also can be used as a single drug or with other drugs. Metolazone is another thiazide diuretic. Loop diuretics like furosemide is not routinely used, but they are used in patients who is having cardiac failure and all. Torsemide is an alternative for furosemide. Potassium sparing diuretics are mainly used in secondary type of hypertension, or it is used as an add-on drug with furosemide. Spironolactone, eplerenone can be used. So they spare potassium. Wherever there is potassium is losing, that can be avoided. So they are diuretics. They can be used in most of the patients. Now next commonly used drug is beta blocker. Beta blockers are not routinely used as a first line drugs, but when there is a compelling indication like cardiac diseases and all, beta blockers should be used. In that we have atenolol, bisoprolol, metoprolol, propranolol. Propranolol is not routinely used for hypertensive management. They are mainly used in migraine prophylaxis, but they have an ability to reduce the BP. Newer drug is carvedilol. Advantage of carvedilol is a single drug. It blocks both alpha and beta adrenal receptors. So that is the one common drug which nowadays we are using. Nebivolol can be used alone or it can be used with amlodipine or hydrochlorothiazide. So these combinations are also available. Routinely it is not used as a first line drug, but they always useful as a second line drug, or it can be used with other drugs, or patient is having cardiac diseases, these beta blockers can be used. Angiotensin converting enzymes, they are the most commonly used drug in hypertensive patients. Captopril, enalapril, ramipril, lisinopril, so many drugs are there in this category. Their uses are mainly can be used as a primary systemic hypertension drug. It can be used in cardiac failure, left ventricular dilatation, diabetic nephropathy, proteinuria. It can prevent proteinuria. It can be combined with AC inhibitors can be combined with either diuretic or ARBs or any other drug. So they can be combined if the BP is not getting controlled. But initially we routinely use AC inhibitor alone. They are contraindicated in pregnancy. Very important thing is they are contraindicated in pregnancy. Aortic stenosis, HOCM, carotid stenosis, fixed cardiac output states they should be avoided. Renal artery stenosis, or if the creatinine is increasing, they should be avoided. Side effects are dry cough is the most important side effect for ACE inhibitors. So they are mainly used as a first line drug in systemic hypertension or in proteinuria or left ventricular failure it is used. ARBs or angiotensin receptor blockers are similar like ACE inhibitors. Their actions are similar to that, but the drugs are different. Losartan, candesartan, irbesartan, valsartan, telmisartan, these are the drugs come in this class. Cough is a side effect for ACE inhibitor, but cough incidence is low in ARB. They are not seen at all. The indications and contraindications are same as ACE inhibitors. They can be either added to ACE inhibitor, like you can add ACE inhibitor ARB together, or ACE inhibitor or ARB, like ARB can be added to other drugs like diuretics or calcium channel blockers or beta blockers. But this is a first line drug in hypertension. Any patient who is having hypertension diagnosed, we can directly start on ARBs like losartan or candesartan or irbesartan. And indications we have explained, like it can also be used in left ventricular failure, diabetic nephropathy, proteinuria, all these things it is indicated. Again, it is contraindicated in pregnancy and fixed cardiac output states. Now the next drug is calcium channel blocker. The commonly used calcium channel blocker is amlodipine. Amlodipine is the most commonly used calcium channel blocker for hypertensive management. Once daily dose is required. That's why amlodipine has become the commonly used drug. The only problem with amlodipine is it can produce pedal edema. It can produce pedal edema, and sometimes it can increase the heart rate. So whenever we start amlodipine, we have to check for whether patient is developing any pedal edema or patient is developing any tachycardia. Newer drugs are in this category are cilnidipine. Cilnidipine is one important drug in this category. It has got similar features of amlodipine, but pedal edema incidence is less comparing with amlodipine. Nifedipine should be given as BD dose. If it is retard preparation, it can be given as a once daily dose. Otherwise, if you are giving amlodipine, once daily dose is safe. It can be used in systemic hypertension, peripheral vascular disease, Raynaud's phenomenon, and the drugs like verapamil or diltiazem, which can control the heart rate, can be used in as an antiarrhythmic drug agent or Prinzmetal's angina. So these are the indications for calcium channel blocker. Cardiac failure is a contraindication for calcium channel blockers because all the calcium channel blocker can further deteriorate the cardiac functioning, so that should be avoided. So that is very important. Many patients may complain about pedal edema and headache while therapy on calcium channel blockers. So that is very important. Calcium channel blockers like Nicardia or nifedipine, acute sublingual preparation should be avoided in high BP. So it can suddenly deteriorate the condition. So it should be avoided. Now another important drugs which can be used in hypertensive management is alpha blockers. The main drug in this category is prazosin. Prazosin can be used not as a first line drug. It should be used only when there is a failure of first line drug, or it should be used as an add-on drug to the first line drug. Uncontrolled hypertension we can use, or if the patient is suspected to have pheochromocytoma, alpha blockers are better choice. The important thing we have to tell the patient when we are starting alpha blocker, it can produce severe postural hypotension. So night time when the patient takes this tablet and when they go to bathroom, suddenly patient can have hypotension during that time. So that should be avoided. We have to advise the patient to sit for some time and get up. Otherwise, patient can develop hypotensive attacks during night time. Postural hypotension is very common. Centrally acting antihypertensives are routinely used second line drugs, like when we have high BP, especially in renal failure and all. Patient BP may not be controlled with one or two drugs. There, clonidine is an ideal drug. Clonidine can be added with the first line or second line drugs. It can produce postural hypotension, drowsiness, dry mouth, depression, all these things. Other drugs like hydralazine is a very useful drug even in emergency room. Previously, IV hydralazine was available. Now, IV hydralazine is not available, but even then, hydralazine is a very useful vasodilator, can be used in acute conditions in emergency room itself. Sodium nitroprusside is an IV preparation, can be used in high BP conditions, that is hypertensive emergencies, but they are not routinely used in patients who is having high BP in clinical practice, but only in emergency room these drugs are used. Hydralazine is very useful injection and tablet in acute emergencies, but even after that, after acute episode, it can be continued. Now, if we see the advantages and disadvantages of hypertensive drugs, you can see see this chart. If you see AC inhibitor, diabetes, it is indicated. Gout, it is indicated. Dyslipidemia, it is indicated. Coronary artery disease, it is indicated. LV failure, it is indicated. Asthma, it is indicated. But whereas beta blocker in asthma or COPD, older beta blockers are contraindicated, but newer drugs like nebivolol can be used safely. That will not produce bronchospasm. Calcium channel blockers are contraindicated in LV failure because any calcium channel blocker reduces the cardiac output, it reduces the pumping. So, calcium channel blockers should be used with caution in patients who is having LV failure. Diuretics are contraindicated in gout and dyslipidemia, but it may be contraindicated sometimes in diabetes, not very important contraindication. Pregnancy, AC inhibitors or ARBs are contraindicated. Other drugs can be given in pregnancy. Now, we have discussed about antihypertensive management. We have given only an overview of antihypertensive drugs. Complete management is not explained in detail, but what are the drugs which can be safely used in hypertensive? We have to remember ACD rule. AC inhibitor or ARB, calcium channel blocker, diuretics. They can be used as safe first line agents. Thank you.